The secret is out. In 2019, we saw a damaging trade war with China, an impeachment that has little to no teeth, and record stock market highs, yet gold gained nearly 20%. Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki said in the next 10 years, 2 billion old guys like me will retire. 2 billion all over the world. This is a global crisis. I'm buying gold and silver. I love silver because it's cheap and could double when the market's correct. Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and Citigroup are forecasting $2,000 an ounce for gold. Orion Metal Exchange is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer. At Orion, you get more precious metals for your money. Call today or request a free investment kit below. Mention 7 Trumpets Prepper channel and get a free 1-ounce silver coin for qualified retirement account owners. Must be over 40. Call 866-915-5053 and get your free investment guide today. Welcome to 7 Trumpets Prepper. Guys, in this video, I just want to tell y'all something real quick before I jump back to work today. I've been working at this conference, putting it together for later this year for about, 3-4 months now. It's been a lot going on, and, we've wrangled up people from all different walks of life to speak, and we've got more that we ain't even announced yet that we're working on this month, finishing up before we put the tickets out. And something occurred to me is as I've been researching stuff lately and looking online and tracking people down, you'll Google something, to find somebody. And then I'll, if I didn't have them already in my contacts or whatever. Well, you would see the search results on Google and it would say, Lunar Sabbath, false doctrine. Flat Earth, false doctrine. Pre-tribulation rapture, no rapture, false doctrine. Just all this stuff, like every single thing, almost every single thing I can think of to talk about at this conference. I guess everybody would label it false doctrine because I was looking. It's like, if you preach keep the 10 Commandments, it's false doctrine. If you preach to keep the Father's counter, false doctrine. If you preach to understand biblical flat earth, it's false doctrine. I mean, it just it's laughable. And I'm not laughing at the word. I'm not trying to be blasphemous. People blow my darn mind. The scripture talks about, it's in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. I believe it says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. And I can't remember the rest of it. But anyway, it's in Isaiah chapter 5. And pretty much, it just says that there'll be these people that they'll call things that are wicked and upside down good, and yet they'll blast the good things, and the people that'll stand for the good, pretty much they'll blast that as bad. And it's just become obvious to me, and I'm not just saying this as pertaining to the conference, it's actually just brought my mind to this knowledge base, that if you look in the movement of the awakening, now I'm not just saying like Hebrew Israelite, I'm talking like all-encompassing awakening, Gentiles waking up, Hebrews waking up, you will find that, like, I call it like the 4-5 rule, is people will believe 4 out of 5 of the pillars of truth that I talk about a lot, but that last one's a hang-up for them. So somebody over here that may believe in flat earth will blast the Father's counter. And it's ridiculous, because, you think about this, right? Let's just run through this for a second. People say prepping for the tribulation is false doctrine. All right, well, let's look at the backside of that. If I prep for the tribulation and nothing happens, I've lost nothing. If I don't prep and no rapture happens, dude, you are in a world of hurt coming. Second thing is people will be like, oh yeah, Saturday Sabbath. And then they'll be like, oh, you do Lunar Sabbath, you terrible, wicked man, you. And I'm like, I'm sorry? Like, you keep the feast days by the Father's calendar and I do too, but all of a sudden, I'm a bad person because I count the Sabbath by it, but yet you can't explain to me the Battle of Jericho. That's a simple question. Any pastor, any elder, any leader, anybody that stands up and says that they teach the Father's word and his appointed times should be able to answer that one readily. No questions asked. What day was Sabbath? Because I ain't never heard it in S-Day Church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, which, boy, we're going to talk about in a video coming up about them. joined back to Rome, but I don't want to spoil that one. That one's coming up on channel soon too. But you got the whole situation going on there where there's 7 days of battle, but we know to be at war gets a man profane and unclean. He's touching dead bodies and etc. Now, we're not to do work on Sabbath. And not only that, in the book of Maccabees, far past that era, all the way up into the Grecian Empire era, we see that Judas Maccabeus wasn't fighting on Sabbath, and because of the folks decided not to fight on Sabbath, a lot of people were murdered, so they decided to go to fighting on Sabbath if they had to. So you have the battle starting on New Moon Day, then they fought the remaining 6 work days, and the following day after that would have been Sabbath. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to debate that. And you know why? Because there's nothing to debate, because I'm telling you, it would ruin people. It'd ruin their whole ministry if they took that to a debate. Next thing, let's talk about flat earth. You know, people's like, oh, it's a globe, it's a globe, it's a globe. But yet, if we just approach it from away from the Bible. See, I approached it away from the Bible. It's one thing I came to away from the Bible, right? And then I looked at it in the Bible later. But if you just look at that simple rocket launch where people were trying to get in the Guinness World Book of Records, I believe it was, and you just see this rocket go, and then boink, hits the dome and starts falling back. Well, people are like, well, it just ran out of fuel. Well, that's not what's really interesting to me in that video. What's interesting to me in that video is the localized sun that is right next to the rocket. And then on top of that, if you look, you see the moon far out on the disc, the flat plane. Yet it should have been around the globe at Australia, and they launched that rocket in Nevada. Now, see, guys, we could just keep going and going and going on this stuff. I'll tell you one more. The people talk about the true Hebrews. They're like, he's, I don't want to miss my notes there that I wrote down on that. It goes, Moses, everybody wants to be like, oh yeah, Moses is white, the Jews is white, blah, 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 the Hebrews is white. And I'm like, okay. I get in this argument with people. I'm like, then who is the so-called black man? And I got into it with a brother the other day, and I just, you know what, folks, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be careful who I call my brother anymore. All right, but I got into it with this guy in faith the other day, and he goes, I asked him freaking 4 times to answer one question for me. I kept answering questions, and I've adopted a new rule. If I ask you something twice, you don't answer me, yep, I'm done with you. But anyway, I asked 4 times, who are the so-called black man if he's not the Hebrew? And he finally said the Hamite. Okay, I'm like, okay, all right, finally we've established who we're dealing with. All right, so the so-called black man's a Hamite. Then that means that Moshe, if he was a white man, has blended in as a black man as Pharaoh's grandson, right? As part of the royal family, right? Adopted in. So now I don't know about y'all, and I don't want to sound racist, because I have lots of friends from every different background, ethnicity. I'm serious, like Asian friends, Hispanic friends, so-called black man friends, you name it, white folk. I've never seen a white man blend in with a crowd of black folk. I've been in a large assembly where that I was one of the few white people there, right? Caucasianoid or whatever you want to call it, non-melanated. And I don't know about y'all, but I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. So, and I mean, no disrespect to him, I'm not being racist, guys. I mean, like, just think about this cognitive thinking. Moshe's not going to blend in, all right, in that scenario. But now, however, if he was deeply melanated, and the Hamites are deep melanated, right, then, yeah, he's going to probably freaking blend in, right? Because people, well, he's just a light-skinned Hamite. He could have blended in. Guys, I'm telling you, the problem in the last days is people, what is that other scripture? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but because they would not receive the love of the truth, they were sent strong delusion, something to that effect. I'll have to find the scripture, put it in the video description below if anybody needs it. But anyway, guys, that's why we got to start writing the scripture on the heart too, because I'm bad about that. I can remember what it says. Sometimes I can remember the chapter, but I can't remember the verse, you know. But we need to write it as much as on our heart, because I worry they're going to take our word from us one day when they throw us in the jail cell or murder us, right? But anyway, y'all, please protect us all. But the thing I say, guys, is the last thing, and yes, I'm probably a rant today, and you know what, it is what it is. But the last thing I'll say to this is we're approaching this time in the last days where that if you stand for the truth, if you stand for these pillars of truth, you will find 2 things will happen. Either people will agree with you up to a certain pillar, and then they check out, like they agree with flat earth, they agree with the true Hebrews, they agree with no pre-trib rapture, but they'll stop at the calendar. Or they'll agree with the calendar, and they'll agree with who the true Hebrews are, and they'll agree with flat earth, but they won't agree with I can't remember what the other three I just said, but the rapture, right? Anyway, it's just interchangeable, right? Just interchange, and there could be more truths. They could believe, not in the holy names, but they agree with the Father's counter and flat earth. You see what I'm saying? And not, here's the thing, guys. Salvation is through faith in Yahushua Mashiach, his blood sacrifice, and we got to keep the commands. That's if you look at Revelation, those that have right to tree of life are those that do his commands and have the faith of Messiah, and that's repeated like multiple times throughout the book of Revelation. There's 3 witnesses in there about the commands, 2 about having faith in Messiah. So, you just look at that, and that's where we've arrived at. Is we're at the point where people want to just shout everybody down. It's their way or the highway. It's not about getting to the bottom of the truth. See, like, that's what this whole conference is about. Because getting to the bottom of the truth, because every one of those truths is going to have its day in the sun. It's going to have its opportunity to come to the light. People can talk about it. If you want to accept it, fine. If you don't, fine. But it ain't going to be shouted down. It's going to be told right there to the people. And you can do your own research and your own due diligence to figure out if it be so and follow in it. But we've arrived at this point where you've got to understand that if you really look at it on a deep level, and like I said, just Google this stuff, because that's how I ran across this thought process lately, is that every single one of the pillars of truth being restored in the last days, people are calling false doctrine at some point conjuncture. Now, there's a lot of us that we accept it all across the board. We're like, I'm in, I'm sold, I'm done. It's great. But there's a lot of people out there that they'll accept certain truths, and then that other one they're going to label false doctrine. And guys, that's just how it is. And you can do one of 2 things. You can just get up in your feels about it, or you can just ignore them and keep it 100 and just keep moving. And that's what I'm going to do. I just don't care about anymore. I don't get in my feels about it. The only reason I'm bringing this up to y'all today is for the mental knowledge to be aware and see this stuff, because you will see it's becoming a reoccurring trend. Okay. And you're going to have to think for yourself. You're going to have to look into all these truths. You're going to have to decide for yourself, because I'm going to tell you, there's going to be one person stand up in the last days in judgment for you, and that's going to be yourself standing there taking it. Ain't going to be your pastor man saving you, Luke saving you, or anybody else. So, guys, I got to go get to work today. I got to go make some money. I just want to share that with you, that it just seems like everything, especially all the pillars of truth in the last day, at some point somebody is labeling it false doctrine. And you got to think for yourself. I guess the last thing I will say is, where truth is present, controversy always abounds. So think for yourself, guys. And as always, till we see you again here at 7 Trump's Prayer Channel, I hope the Most High Yah baruch you, keep you, make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends, and Yahushua.